All right, welcome back to another One of None podcast, and we're keeping it rolling today with the guest speaker series. We are happy to have our second guest on the podcast today. His name is Mike Siszka. You're going to learn a lot about him in a couple minutes, so I will not go into too much detail, but Mike is from my neck of the woods, out closer to Pittsburgh. I guess all of our neck of the woods, but Andrew's in Florida now, but Mike grew up close to me. We've been friends for a long time. So I'm excited to have you on, Mike. It's good to finally get you on. We've been talking about having you on the podcast once we did a guest speaker series in a while. So welcome. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed listening to you guys and happy I can be a part of it.
Awesome. All right. So just want to start off like we always do, thanking everybody that listens and is subscribed and looks forward to listening to our podcast. You know, we don't reach a ton of people, but we're happy with the people that we do reach. So thanks for listening, and we're glad that you guys enjoy this stuff because we love doing it.
Yeah, thank you all for listening. Jonah, tell them what you sent me today. What was the thing that the screenshot you sent me about the listeners? It was like,
so it was like the recap from Spotify for the podcast, which was pretty cool because it was giving us some like breakdown of some of the data and the people that listen to the podcast. So for 86 listeners were in their top 10 podcasts. For 68 listeners were in their top 5. And then for 18, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that's a lot to us, were their number 1 podcast. So there's a lot of podcasts out there. So it's cool that, I mean, even 18 people that, you know, are listening to us over all the other ones. So thank you guys. This is, you know, we love doing this. So that's awesome.
Yeah, super fun. We've said this before. It's a value exchange. If you learn something from having Mike on here today or previous podcasts, share the podcast. Takes 5 seconds. You know, we obviously appreciate it. That's how we kind of get the word out there about us, is through social media, which me and Joe are not on right now, but we'll start posting again eventually pretty soon. So without further ado, let's get into it. JC, yeah. I'm assuming you probably have something to start out with, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we just start at the beginning, right? So Mike, just tell us kind of where you grew up. You can start with that, you know, what area you grew up in. We can get into a little bit of like your family life, how you were raised, and go from there.
Yeah, I mean, so I was raised out in the Apollo Vandergrift area, which is small towns, kind of 35 minutes outside of Pittsburgh. Jonah and I went to actually neighboring high schools. We didn't go to high school together, but we played like youth sports and stuff together. Well, that's how we met, and then we just kind of stayed friends throughout that, and stayed in contact.
Yeah. So, and then let's get into what Andrew and I like to hit on in general. What we talked about, and then we talked about with Sean too, was the big point is that it doesn't matter where you come from, how you were raised, what the cards you were dealt. Everything's kind of the opportunities there. So tell us a little bit about like your childhood, family life, how you were raised, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I would say a relatively normal childhood. Nothing crazy. Grew up in a middle class household where my parents both instilled very good work ethics in me and my brother, and always work hard, be respectful. There was nothing too crazy going on. I mean, we had our ups and downs as a family, like everyone, but overall, I would say I had a good childhood. Nothing where it was an abundance of like wealth or anything like that. But I had 2 parents that loved me, and great relationships with my grandparents who are all still alive, and I actually live a couple houses down from them now. So I had a pretty good family life, I would say. I really can't reasonably complain about any of it. So yeah.
Mike, what Jonah was kind of giving me an overview of you before, but tell me about your college background. give us like an idea for what you studied in college.
Yeah,
Um,
so I studied mathematics. My major was math, minored in finance. Now I work as an actuary, and then outside of that, I own a gym. I also do a lot of stuff with strength conditioning and fitness and learning about that stuff as well. So didn't go to school for it, but I've read so many books and listened to a lot of coaches and stuff like that. So that's basically what I do now is the actuarial stuff, and then my gym.
yeah, it's pretty sweet. I love that. I love that you're doing this side gig. That's like I feel like I have my hands in so many baskets too. Like I want to learn so much about different things. So my primary focus is like my job, my day-to-day stuff, but like on the side, I'm not usually reading the same stuff for PT. I'm usually reading like investment stuff or stock market, like trading, real estate, those types of things, which it seems like that's kind of what you're diving into outside of your main job, which is really cool. I think that's super important. And you're showing a lot of people out there that like you can have a side hustle too. You don't have to be limited to just your 9 to 5 or what your daily career is. You can have a lot of cool other like jobs outside that, little side hustles, and it seems like you're doing that. So that's awesome. Kudos to you, dude.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, that's what I love to do. I've always loved training and lifting especially, but any kind of training like that, and really wanted to be a good athlete and stuff. But my limited height and stuff kind of limited some of that, and I had a lot of injuries and stuff too. So I really then dove deep into wanting to be better and then wanting to help other young kids not make the same like stupid mistakes that I made while training because I didn't have someone like that. So I wanted to kind of be that and help these kids who wanted to work hard, who wanted to give all the effort that I wanted to give, like actually train correctly and get those scholarships and do stuff.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And that is awesome. And it's really important too, because it's, when we were younger, it was just about throwing weight. It was about how much can you lift. There was very minimal regard for injury prevention and like lifting properly. And then also on top of that, just making sure you're hitting the muscle groups you're supposed to hit. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into that. So that's great that you're doing that and you're helping them so that they don't make those mistakes and get injured later on. Now, so I know that you didn't like go to school for fitness, but didn't you had to go and get like your certificate to do like the training and stuff, right? Do I remember that correctly? Then you have
Yeah,
to get
so
something.
I have my CSCS, which is one of like the bigger certifications out there. I mean, that took three and a half months or so of like real solid studying for. It's a fairly hard one. I don't put too much stock in certifications. Most of them are kind of bullcrap, but honestly, including this one, like I mean, this one at least was a little bit difficult to get, so you couldn't be an idiot and actually like pass it. You had to actually put in some work, so I will give it some points for that. But the best thing to do is just find like you can find the best coaches in the world online. You know, just start looking stuff up, and I studied track and field and weightlifting and bodybuilding and marathon running. Like find the best coaches and read their books and listen to them talk, and I mean that's obviously going to be the best way to learn.
Right. Yeah, using all your resources that you have available. Yeah, I wanted to also take a step back too. And so you went to Kiski, is where you went to high school.
Yeah.
Kiski's like it's not a huge school, but it's definitely not a small school. Like Apollo was like, I mean, I graduated with 97 people. How many people
Yeah,
did you graduate with at Kiski?
I graduated with like 260, but that was like the
Okay.
smallest class ever. Typical classes right now is about 300.
Yeah. And
Mine's double that,
yeah, I know North Hal is big. Yeah.
700.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you guys always schools like you guys always crush us because we were like the smallest school in the quad A.
Yep.
At that time was the biggest classification, and we would always get smacked around by you guys who had like 800, 900 kids.
Yeah, we would play Kiski. That's right. We'd play Kiski for sure.
Yeah. So went to Kiski, and I mean, obviously, you have a good head on your shoulders. You're a very successful and very smart individual. You were very motivated, how did you do in school? I know how you did, but nobody else does. So, were you a 4.0 student? Were you middle of the pack? How did you graduate?
Yeah, so I did really well in school. I mean, in high school, had all A's, 4.0. I took a bunch of AP classes and AP tests and stuff. I graduated high school with I think 38 college credits. So then I went to college. I finished. I got my major and minor in 3 years with basically like no extra summer classes or anything. I just showed up as a sophomore. I got a 4.0 in college. Um, school's been one of the things that definitely has always come kind of easy. Not that well, I didn't work that hard in high school, but once I got into college, I actually was like, oh, hey, this isn't just about a grade; it's about learning something useful. And I started, taking it a lot more seriously. I would say probably like my senior year of high school is when I started being like, oh, I don't. The goal wasn't to get an A anymore. That used to be the goal. The goal now is to actually learn something. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
always done really well in school. Always really liked learning too. But
Were
yeah,
you were
it's
you the valedictorian at Kiski?
no, I don't know, like sixth or seventh
No.
from the
Oh, for some
top.
reason I thought that you were. I knew you were in the running. I thought that you were the first or second there. But still, I mean, that's out of 260 kids. Being in the top 10, even that's still very impressive, and not even trying either.
Something funny on that is I used to literally in like ninth, 10th grade, I used to because my goal then, my parents always instilled, hey, like you get A's in school, and stuff, and that's just what we did. I always thought that if 92% was an A, anything over a 92%, I used to think was wasted effort. That I would literally just like try to like 92s, 93s and stuff. I was like, not anything more than that. I was like, I tried too hard.
This was in high school, right?
Yeah, that was like ninth, 10th grade. I shaped up a little bit more after that, but
Better than me, that's for sure. At the time,
So, were you gonna say something, Andrew? I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
Okay. Yeah. So I know your parents. Your parents are very hardworking people, and so, like you said, they kind of instilled that in you. Your dad was also a coach. He was like one of our coaches for a while, and so he's like, I could definitely see him being like kind of pushing you and making sure that you're keeping on it, kind of like my dad was. Now, were your parents like, they expect you to get A's? Were they very strict in that way? Like, were they really pushing you? Like, hey, you need to like be on this from the jump right now. Like, how was that? Or were they kind of like laid back and just like let you do your thing?
they were a lot more laid back. I mean, I like I said, they definitely instilled hard work and stuff through action and just talking about it. I think honestly it was so instilled in me by the time I became conscious of it, like in junior high, high school, and beyond, that there wasn't really anything that needed pushing. It was just like your homework was something that you did when you got home from school. It wasn't like a thought of like, oh well, I'll go do something else first. It was you come home, you do schoolwork, and that's just like what you do. So I wouldn't say there wasn't too much like direct pushing, and I also never really needed it. I was always at least motivated enough to do well and wanted to do well, whether it would be sports or anything. People used to always say like, "Oh, your dad makes you lift weights and stuff like that." I was like, "No, I absolutely love doing it." Like, it was the greatest Christmas gift I ever got. Still, was in seventh grade. I got my weight bench and stuff, and then me and my dad would go lift weights in the basement together. He would lift with me, but it was by no means like a force thing. And even before that, I would always do like push ups and stuff on my own. Like I was always very motivated. Um, there, I'm sure that if I wouldn't have been, my parents would have been like, "All right, hey, you need to get your shit together." But for the
Yeah.
most part, they were like, "Hey, as long as you're doing what you need to do, we're hands off." Like,
Cool. Yeah, I think that's really important to have parents like that are going to have your back too, and being like the enforcer, but also being laid back enough to see that you're doing well and let you do your thing. But I think it's even more impressive that, you know, I think some people have that inherent drive to just be diligent and be better. I think that all of us have that. I think you probably had that from an earlier point than me or Andrew. I mean, like you're just dedicated to being like in the gym and lifting, and then also be on top of, the academic stuff from like an early point. I mean, that's like kudos to you, because not many people have that dedication and determination so early on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what it is. I remember when I was 8 years old, I decided that I wanted to play in the NFL, and I decided to. I did 400 push-ups every day as an 8-year-old. I decided to do that myself, and I did that for like 2.5 years, and then I got a little lazy for like a year around age 11, and I didn't do them every day.
It's ridiculous.
I look back on it and I was like, that's insane. I remember doing them like in the dark at night in my room because we would like be gone all day, and my parents would be like, "Hey, it's bedtime."
It's just their 8-year-old just jacked doing push-ups.
Good times.
Honestly, I was thinking about this. Like a child's imagination is so crazy because like when you have your eyes set on something you want to become, there's literally no stopping it. It's crazy. And I thought about this because I was on flight back home to Jacksonville on Sunday, this past Sunday, and I watched Batman Begins with who's the main, I forget the main guy in that, but it brought me back to like when I watched that back when it was first released, and like it made me feel like a child again by watching that, because I was like, oh, I want to be like that dude's pretty badass, like I want to be that guy. And I thought to myself, I'm like, I've lost my imagination, because that's where so much of my drive came from, and probably what Mike is saying a little bit too is like, if someone told you that 400 push-ups a day for the next 10 years of your life would get you to the NFL, you're going to do it. And I would have believed them as a kid too. Like if I wanted to go out and be a superhero, I thought I was going to do it no matter what it took. And I think it's the same thing as like, that's a really big driving force, your imagination. And I feel like I've lost that. I think sometimes I become too realistic with myself. And I think maybe like, honestly with Mike, like that may have been like the causative factor for him doing 400 push-ups a day, was his imagination was so strong, and like it's such a powerful force, and if you don't have it still to this day, like that's tough. You got to have the vision or like the dream to do something like that.
No, absolutely. Well, I think this is one thing. Like as we become adults, and obviously we take on more responsibility, so we get more kind of limited and confined, and then also you learn things. And sometimes the biggest gift is just not knowing. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, most of the time that's probably not the best way, but then there's all the times where you're like, well, that's not technically optimal, so I'm not going to do it, or I got to wait till the right time. Definitely just kind of being able not only set goals. I know you guys talk about that a lot and stuff, and setting goals and stuff, and having that forward drive and focus, but still trying to remind yourself that like it's okay to dream a little bit, and come up with something new to do, and push yourself in a different way. I try to do that. I'm also very goal oriented though too, so like sometimes I'll find myself like, oh, I'm just stuck down this track. Got to kind of get off that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think you definitely have to be um a little bit have a little bit of that imagination to like have those, like to set those goals that are above the average, like the people that are out there running, they're setting their goal to run, a 50-mile race when they've only ever run a half marathon, or a marathon. They've never even pushed past 26.2, but they're like, yeah, I got 50 in 6 months from now. It's like having that, like the imagination where you're not, I don't want to say it's like you're not thinking realistically, because really like that sort of thing is realistic if you put enough time and effort into it, but you got to have that like imagination to think way bigger than what maybe other people do. So it's definitely important, obviously, to have that.
So you
Yeah.
almost, you almost you can't let other people define what realistic is for you. It's kind of the main driving force. Is like, do you want it? If it's something that's good for you, then you might as well try. Like, yeah, you might not get there, but then you'll know at least.
I like that. I like that a lot, actually, because you have to have fun with it. And Mike's right. Like, who's deciding what's right and what you should and shouldn't do? Like, that's somebody else's own personal like objection to it. Like literally 10 years ago, I was like, if you asked me 10 years ago if I'd be running right now, I'd say absolutely not. Jonah, you know that. Like I
Dude,
hate running with a
I
passion.
just did a 5K on Thanksgiving, and I literally
Exactly.
never thought that would happen.
Exactly, right? But like, and I get new hobbies all the time. I just bought me and Jonah are getting into cycling a lot. I just bought a $300 bike, which originally was a $1,200 bike, and I got the guy to come down to 300. But I picked up cycling. If you know me, I have tree trunk legs. My legs are not built for cycling right now, but like they're weightlifting legs. But I love, like, it's so much fun to just start something new. And why can't you? Why can't you get out there? You know? Like I just did a relay the other day, and we had a Boston Marathon winner back in like '79 that was there, and he was helping sponsor the event. And I got to meet him. He's like, "You look like you play football." I was like, "And I'm about to run 8.5 miles in this hour, and I'm gonna try and run it pretty fast." Like, I don't look like that, but who cares? You know, if someone told me, "Oh, you don't look like you should be a runner," I'm not gonna be like, "Oh, yeah, you're right. I'm not gonna run now." Like, I'm gonna have fun with it. I'm gonna get after it, you know. And I think that's the kid in me, is like, you just want to take on new stuff, try new things. And Mike, you're right. Like, who's to say like what you can and can't do? That's the fun part about training and pushing yourself. You know, I want to be able to squat 315 pounds for reps, but also run 10 miles if I wanted to, or cycle 30 miles, all within the same weekend. Like, who's to say I can't do that? You know?
You know, one of my goals here, probably, I haven't said it like it's been like probably in the summer, probably towards the end of summer. Just give me some more time. I want to do the like 500-pound deadlift and sub 20-minute 5K, like in 20 minutes. Just set it up, do the deadlift first, and then hit the 5K all in under 20 minutes.
That's a hefty goal. That's a hefty goal. That's like I mean, you're running like it has to be at least a 6:45-minute
Yeah,
pace,
little under
something
that, I
like
think.
that. Yeah, but you got to have goals like that. Why? Like, if you're already running like a 22 or 23 or 24-minute marathon or 5K, only shaving off a minute as your goal isn't really much of a jump up to plan for and prepare for. But okay, so anyway, I want to also get into a couple other things too, because we can just BS all night long because we love
Yeah.
that. But let's jump back into it. So we talked about what you're doing now. You're a lot of what you're passionate about is the fitness side of things, and passing on the knowledge that you've put a lot of time into gain with your research and own personal experience into like helping the next generation. And so tell us a little bit about, you have like your own gym now and you're training kids and whatnot. Tell us about
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. So I just to start in the beginning. So after college, I did create a strength and conditioning computer system. It was my first business. I was trying to sell it to high schools and colleges to help them with their strength conditioning programs. Is a lot of schools don't have very good programs. It's usually just one or two coaches who are helping out and stuff. And I wanted to give these kids and stuff a good program and videos and everything like that. So did that, was training people just out of my parents' garage for a while. That part of the business eventually failed and didn't make it and stuff, but I kept training people and stuff, and then just started working towards getting this gym, and that finally came out. I bought it in March last year, and things have been going really well there and stuff. One of the things that I really am trying to do at this gym is make it more than about just lifting weights. That like my goal used to be more to help like people become better athletes, and that still obviously is a goal. But now it's more to try and help people, improve their like, discipline and their toughness and their responsibility. Like I'd say my goal now is more to help build better people, not just better athletes. And and I really do think that fitness is the best way to do that because it's so embodied. Like you can't intellectually walk around it. You can't rationalize it. You have to actually show up. You actually got to do the work. You actually have to get your muscles sore and tired. You actually have to, do it day in, day out. And it becomes, especially for young boys and young men, it's like, are you going to get them to sit down and listen? No, that's stupid. People have been trying that forever. It doesn't work. But like, if you can get them to want to care, like, about their bench press and how many pull-ups they can do, and they start to get some muscles. Like I had a kid the other day, he's 12, telling me he likes lifting weights because it helps him get the ladies. And I was like, it's like, but but they see this and they can actually, then they start to see progress, and they know like, hey, I was deadlifting 100 pounds a couple months ago. Now I'm at 150. Now I'm at 200. And like they see that progress, and like you can see the light in their eyes sometimes. It just like lights up, and that's what's so rewarding, is watching someone like that set a goal when they're 12, and then they hit this milestone that they didn't think they would ever get to. And someone me, it's like, oh, that's not a very big milestone, but for them, like they set it, and then they kind of get that high of what I can set goals and like accomplish them and work towards them. And I help them with setting up a plan and all that stuff. So that's really what I like about it. And really what I'm trying to do with the gym is make it more than just about, how much weight you can pick up. Cause at the end of the day, that doesn't really matter. But like get them to, show up on time and put in the work and bring their notebook and like write stuff down and be disciplined. And that's really where I'm trying to get with it.
Yeah, that's a lot deeper than I even knew. They like what you're, trying to do down there. So, that's awesome, man. That I don't even know. Like, I'm kind of speechless because I didn't even realize that was like your goal, but it makes total sense. I mean, maybe the kids that you're coaching and training don't realize it, but the impact that what you're doing for them, like that impact is gonna show up for them in the next, very near future as they're getting a little bit older and getting a little bit more motivated in whatever they're doing, whether that's academics, one of their hobby, like band, lifting, sports, whatever. Like you're like really kind of showing them how to set goals, how to stay consistent and diligent, like, and showing them that, hey, like you can set this goal that might seem unrealistic now, but by, coming in and day out and working at it and, just like one day at a time, you can eventually, you're going to get there and surpass that. And that's invaluable. I mean, that's something that like they're going to take on for a long time, when they look back. Cause it's just like, you think about when you were a kid playing sports and you had a coach that, was maybe hard on you or pushed you a little bit harder, and maybe like you thought they were kind of like a dick or something because they were being a little bit, like pushing you a little bit. But then when you look back, you realize that they had such higher and better intentions for you. They were seeing the bigger picture and how that was going to impact you later on. And you couldn't see that as a kid, but looking back, you realize, wow, that person had such an influential, was such an influence in a very crucial part of my life. And that's what you are for them. That's awesome that you're doing that, man. That's really cool.
Yeah, I wanted to add before you go, Mike, I think that's huge too. And I can definitely speak from experience on like having those people early on in my life that helped push me to be in the gym too. And as a physical therapist, I'm a very big advocate for starting that early on in life. There's, I think growing up that people would say, you shouldn't be lifting weights. It's going to stunt your growth. And I think we've all debunked that myth now.
Yeah.
But I mean, man, the working out and physical activity has provided me hand over fist lessons in my life that I would never have gotten otherwise, having gone like going and being in the gym day in and day out as a kid. I mean, that's what I loved the most. It was my therapy, and to all of us. And that's like the one thing that you can like go and just shut off your brain and go and just do. And it teaches you so many lessons about yourself, self-discipline, how you think about yourself. And one of the guys that I run with who's in the Navy, who will probably be on one of the upcoming podcasts, him and I were talking. He doesn't run without music, and he'll run 20 miles, 30 miles, 40 miles at a decently fast pace with no music. And he'll just rehash all the conversations he's had. And he tells me that's where he does some of his best thinking, because he goes back and says, did I talk to my wife the wrong way? Did I say something to my kids the wrong way? And it allows him to circle back after the fact and go back and apologize or go and talk to these people after. And that's what it does. It creates such great, it's just such good therapy in a way, for people. And I think what you're doing is incredibly special because you're building the foundation for these kids. and they're having something to go and do for the rest of their life because of you, that maybe they wouldn't have started to do until college, or even late high school, and you're starting them in middle school maybe. So that's huge, dude. I mean, it pays off so much. So good for you.
I mean, I absolutely love it. Like I've long come to the conclusion that like what I really love to do is teach and like I like to learn and educate and teach and stuff. I'm just disgusted with the current educational system, if I'm being honest, and just like I actually feel like I can have a real relationship with a lot of these kids because like I don't have to be politically correct and all that stuff. And I think like one thing I try to do is I try to treat them like my peers, even if they're 12 years old. I mean, obviously, there's got to be some level of respect and everything, but I try and treat them like people and not like they're a little kid who's fragile and can't be hurt or or anything and stuff. And that's something I really like to do and just watch them kind of grow and develop. But uh, Jenny, you'll have to come down and check the gym out next time you're back home and visiting your parents or whatever, because there's some other cool stuff that I have like in the gym that you definitely find interesting.
Yeah, man, definitely. We'll make that happen. I gotta come check it out. Yeah, you said you've had it since March. I've like barely been home. Yeah, I gotta come check it out. That'd be cool. We'll get a lift in and go for a run. Nice long run.
Yeah. All right. Nah, I started running again. I'm in decent shape. I mean, nothing like you are right now, but I can at least run now.
Yeah, but so that's awesome what you're doing. And I think that not only is it, and Andrew really hit it on the head too. And I feel like, I've always at least said, like, especially when I was in college, like going to the gym is therapy. Like, which it definitely was. There was definitely that component to it. I mean, for me, I felt like going to the gym was still like something that I just needed to do. Um, I liked doing it. I mean, in college we had more time too, so it was like you could spend the time and enjoy it while you were there. But it was still like I was never as in love with it as Andrew was. And like not that it was like easy for you to get up and go to the gym every time or something like that, but that was something that you were always so dedicated to. That's why you didn't play rugby with us. I mean, you cared more about staying healthy so that you would, could progress in the gym the way you wanted to, because that was your sport and that's the way, and you loved it. And I had that therapy to a certain extent, but honestly, something I never thought I would say is I've never had the therapy like I do when I run. And I think it's just the, like how you were saying with your friend Andrew, like there's nothing out there. Even if you're listening to music, like music only does so much. It's just background noise at some, at a certain point. But like when I'm on those runs, especially the long runs, like there's so much that I'm thinking about, like in my day-to-day life, and like just like what he was saying and kind of reflecting on things. And also you just learn so much. Like I've never learned more about my character and who I am and what I'm capable of as I do like when I'm out there running, and I'll like that's just like for me. But like what you're teaching these kids is the same thing, and they're gonna see that too. Is wow, like I'm coming in, like my friends aren't at the gym, but I'm at the gym and I'm pushing myself. And so what's that say about me? Just like kind of what Andrew was saying. And so it's
Something
important.
just popped in my head. Like, so it was, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier with like the imagination of his kids and stuff. So one of my kids who I've been training for a while, and he's 12 now. He'll be 13, I think, in a couple months here. But like, one of his goals. So I have them like explicitly, once they've been with me for a couple months and kind of have things going, and then I give them a goal sheet and I say, hey, give me one goal that you have, and like with stuff that we do, like lifting or in the gym, one goal that you have outside of the gym. So like I've gotten some things like that. Like some of the kids are like, well, I want to make my bed every morning, or, I want to stay off my phone and some stuff like that. But the one kid, he wanted to get forearm veins. He's 12 years old, and his goal was he wanted to get forearm veins because he thinks they look cool. I was like, well, then, I don't actually know if I can get a 12-year-old forearm veins, but I was like, well, we'll try. I was like, and so like every day he like comes in and he's like trying to find the right lighting and seeing if he's got it's just great. Like you get stuff like that all the time.
That's awesome. He's just doing forearm workouts for like an hour, like the plate
Yeah,
roll.
he does some. I have him do some extra like forearm stuff and stuff like that at home, but it's just
That's awesome.
That used to be me, I think. I wanted to be so vascular growing up.
Oh yeah,
Get him
definitely.
lean. Tell him to keep training. Tell him to
yeah.
keep training, and he'll get them.
He's
Yeah.
getting a
So
couple show up, but yeah, crazy stuff like that comes up all the time, and I absolutely love it.
yeah, that is cool to be around that environment with like younger kids and letting their imagination take over and just kind of like listening to all that. All right,
Yeah.
so stepping. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh,
Sorry, Drew.
oh, you're good. I was just gonna say, yeah, I feel like running allows you. It like really strips you down to your core. Like you find out a lot about yourself when you're running. And Jonah and I have talked about this, I think, separately before outside of the podcast. But I feel like you have a lot of conversations with yourself when you run, and whether it's wanting to stop consistently or how much further can I push myself, or we've all been in those circumstances before where we've thought we've tapped out, and then at the end of the race you're like, "Ah, I definitely had way more in me." Like there's been times where I quite literally thought I was gonna pass out of like a heat stroke or something, and I'm like, after the race I'm like, nah, I could have pushed another 2 miles if I needed to. And it's like, it's just you talking to yourself in your head. And like I always joke whenever I have a really hard run, I was like, yeah, I talk to the devil quite a bit that run, and it's just like those conversations you have about how much you want to push, and tells you a lot about your character, and tells you a lot about kind of just how you conversate with yourself and how you think about yourself. And you probably don't want to hear the conversations I have with myself when I run. I mean, I talk out loud too, especially at like the Saturday morning runs at 5 in the morning. I'll talk to myself if I'm running by myself. I talk a lot of trash to myself. I'm almost like Goggins in a way, in a less severe version of Goggins, and I'll just be like, I'm not even gonna say it because it's not appropriate PG for this, but I'd say some stuff, that's how I conversate with myself, because otherwise I'll let kind of the devil take over and convince me to stop. So that's just me personally. I don't know, Mike, if you do a little bit of that. I know Jonah does too, probably. So
Oh yeah, I've had those conversations. That's the fun part, right? Going finding out what you're like under stress is the that's what's fun about it. I mean, I think probably a rare breed actually to think that, but that's I, I like going to those places.
yeah, I mean, everyone's motivated when they're in their comfy clothes, laying in bed, and or they got the motivational music going on in their headphones, and conditions are perfect, and you have 8 hours of sleep, and you have a fresh coffee waiting for you. Everyone's motivated there. But what happens when you're 10 miles deep and you're running in like 80-degree weather? And
I don't listen to music either, and I go just shorts, shirtless every time. Doesn't matter how cold it gets. Like I was did the 5K on Thanksgiving, and I was just like short shorts, and that's it. It was like maybe 37 degrees or something. So I just like show up, didn't have a shirt on from the beginning, which, as my mom said, I looked like an idiot. But she said that. I was like, well, my response was, hey, if you want to be different than people, then you got to be different than people. And everyone else is all wrapped up and bundled up.
Yeah.
Sounds arrogant, but I'll say it. Why not? Like I told my friend who I was running with, I was like, my goal was to make everybody who feels good about themselves for getting up and running a 5K on Thanksgiving. I was like, let's make them feel like a bitch.
No, I mean, it kind of like it's good to do that though, because it also makes you feel like more confident. I mean, it's the same thing that when you tell yourself, Andrew, like this better than anybody probably, and you're waking up at 5 a.m. to go do a run. Like when I wake up, when I was doing my tempo and track runs, I get up at like 5 a.m. on a Wednesday and go to the like local. It's like a Division 3, like small school up the road, and run the track and do like my track workouts. And like one of and there was, I remember this distinctly. There was like a group of like runners. The Lehigh Valley has like a run club, and they were like they were running together. It was like a group of people, right? And they're like jogging up the street, and like in a group of people. And I was just like thinking, like, man, I'm the only one out here that's by myself, and I'm about to like push myself on this track. It's like having that motivation to just go out by yourself and get it done. And then also like the fact that you're up early, like that shit's just motivating. So that, you know, if it takes you having to go out there in 37-degree weather, it's shirtless, to be like, look around and be like, yeah, what's up, baby? You know, about to
I'm
get this.
also like, I'm a big fan of Wim Hof. I mean, you know, like I do the ice baths
Oh yeah,
and cold showers and too. Like it's more just like I like to face the elements and you know again push myself in that way. Get out of the comfort zone and
brace the suck a
do
little
that.
bit. All right. So let's talk about, because you do a lot of stuff. You're a busy guy. One of the other big things you're involved with is your YouTube channel. So this is also kind of like, I was going to ask you what your why is. Like, I feel like that's going to be a consistent thing we do throughout this series. You've really talked about and hit like what your why is already. You can certainly talk more about it, but it's clear that you want to reach people. Like, you want to impact people as much as you can. And on whatever level that is, you know, whether it's the youth or through this YouTube channel that you have, that, I mean, you've been pushing great content out for a while now. You know, tell us, you can tell us more about your why if there's more you want to add to it, but then also, you know, tell us about this YouTube channel and what it's all about.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, let's say my why, just to kind of sum it up, is just to two parts: be a better person myself. I want to be stronger and smarter and just another thing. Why I want that, I'm not sure honestly, but like I do. And then just to encourage other people to want to do the same thing and to want to learn and to help them out. So like those are kind of the two things that drive me. And then so my YouTube channel, it's called Beyond Finance. I started diving into the financial system itself, like I don't know, probably 3 years ago, really when COVID hit, because things got so screwed up, and a bunch of stuff was going on that we don't have time to get into. But like, I'd say it woke me up, and I was like, oh man, I need to like pay a little more attention to the world around me and how things go. And I've always like I minored in finance, like I've always had an interest in investing and stuff. So, but I started really going beyond just the traditional stocks and like real estate and trying to figure out how like our financial system operates on a ground level. Like, how does the Federal Reserve work? How does money get printed, and how does that impact the economy? And just stuff like that. And started really diving into that and come to the conclusion that our financial system is screwed up, like in such a major way that we obviously can't get into on this podcast. We just don't have enough time and everything right now. And I started then learning about alternates. And I mean, this, like, I truly believe Bitcoin is like it's a revolution that is uncomprehendable to anyone who hasn't really studied the financial system and then what that is like it. And I was like, well, I need to educate people on this. I started off just talking to my family and friends about it and was like, hey, I think this is really important. I'm going to educate, if you want to learn, I'll, help you and all that. And then I was like, well, if I really think that it's this important, like I do, then I'm going to try and educate some more people. And it's not that big of a channel yet, but I am really trying to grow that and do it right, because I believe it's super important. And I believe it's super important for people to understand, how things actually work in the current system, and then that there might actually be some alternatives out there and solutions to some of those problems. So I don't pretend that I have all the answers, or that it's, Bitcoin, let's say, is like some magic thing that is going to fix all the problems in the world. But I at least had to, like, I wouldn't have been able to live with myself if I didn't at least try to communicate it to at least one more person.
Yeah. No, and I mean, the one thing I really like about your videos, and everybody that's listening, you should definitely go check it out, because they're really informative and they're really easy to understand. My brain does not work in the finance world. I just have a hard time like understanding that. Like, I could go in deep with microbiology and that sort of thing and the anatomy stuff, but like the numbers game and understanding how that all plays in, I just don't understand it. But Mike does a really good job at breaking it down to like a dummy level, which is easy to understand for an idiot like me. So everybody else could definitely pick up on it. And they're concise videos too. I mean, you're doing like, a few minute long videos. They're short videos. They get right to the point. They're interactive. You have another person. Who is the other person that is always the student in your videos?
No, his name's Connor Smoser. Yeah, he's a
Yeah.
student. I wanted to set the videos up as like a student teacher, so it was kind of like a friendly, because a lot of people were like they're weird about finance or different things like that, and a lot of people speak about finance like, oh, this is like obvious, or you're kind of dumb if you don't know this thing, and like I really got that, so I wanted it to be a very like friendly, like, hey, this is the basics. Here's some good information. You're not stupid for asking these questions. Like that's why I have like the student there. There are a lot of times to ask the questions that like most people are probably thinking, but they're like, oh, I don't know if I should ask that stuff. And so they ask it, and then trying to respond like an educator of like, hey, that's a great question, and go through it
Yeah.
just so people feel like they're not stupid, and this isn't something like, this is something they should be asking questions about, not something that they should automatically know. And so I'm glad to hear that you think that they're getting to the point and are easy to understand. That was the goal.
Yeah. You guys do like a good job at being concise and getting to the point and it being interactive. So that's, I mean, and you're doing shorts now too on YouTube, which is good. That'll get you more in the algorithm and everything. Um, Again, that's what people want. They want the short, concise, straight to the point. Like I want to get as much information as I can, but I don't want all the minutia, like chit chatty BS, stuff or whatever. So you're doing a great job of that, and for another good reason too. And it's got me learning a lot more about Bitcoin. Like I got, I'm not going to get into it now, but
Yeah.
like you got me into investing in Bitcoin and stuff. I think it's important too. But that's awesome, and I'm glad that you guys are enjoying it. And the quality of your videos is getting better as well, which is awesome. Like the audio and everything, you're getting a couple other like camera angles. On top of everything else, you're also like editing and creating like new like intro graphics and stuff. Like it's pretty cool actually.
That's been interesting to learn about, but because I had so like negative experience with making videos and stuff. But I mean, you can kind of learn anything on YouTube if you look for it. So it's all.
Yeah. So then I mean we kind of hit on your upbringing, your why, what you're doing with your career. And honestly, it's like Andrew and I talk about our career a lot. That was something that, you kind of like you hit on, you're like, this is what I do, which like I'm sure that you like it enough because it's your career and everything. And maybe you weren't trying to just like skim over it, but it really seems like, that's like the base that allows you to then branch out and do these other things that are like really important to you that are more impactful, like for yourself and for other people. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, no, that's 100% accurate. And like, I mean, I think we've talked about this before, but like, I do want to train full time at some point, and fully run the gym, and just work with athletes and stuff. And I'm getting to that point. I mean, I'm 26, so like I've got a little bit more time and stuff, and trying to build that up. But things are moving in that direction. Yeah, it's not that I don't necessarily like this, what I do as a career, but it's definitely not my passion.
Sure. Yeah. Which, I mean, I could understand that. You got a lot of other passions. They're very
Yeah,
impactful.
well, I actually, Andrew, I originally wanted to go for was going to go for physical therapy. Um, I liked math too much, but what I was unaware of was how much sitting at a computer was involved with any jobs related to math. Like, so I'm kind of in that where I'm like, well, I'd really like to be actually up moving around and working with people. I was like, I really loved the school for math, and I definitely loved that way more than I would have liked the like physical therapy school and stuff. But I think I would have liked the job more as like a physical therapist. But, I mean, oh well, like I said, I mean, you go, you do things, you find out what you like, what you don't like, you try other stuff, and you just keep going. I'm not upset about it.
It's never too late, man.
Yeah, just go a different route. Like, I mean, the main reason I wanted to do physical therapy was so that I could have that, and also then train people, like be the strength conditioning coach and train people. Like that was just going to be like my career route to then also train people. So I'm just going straight to the source.
Yeah, they merge really well too. Whenever my goal is set, I want to practice one day, and I feel like the buddy of mine that I'm going to be opening up with, we want to eventually have some strength and conditioning mix in there because it translates really, really well. So, I mean, ATs, strength and conditioning coaches, PTs, they all come together pretty well if you have the right people working with you. But crazy story, actually, real quick, was that I had a buddy that was in a whole different field. He was in safety science from IUP. Calls me up on my third year of PT school. He's like, dude, I think I want to be a PT. And I'm like, you're kidding, right? Like you're making good money right now doing what you're doing. He's like, I don't like it. And I was like, all right, well, this is what you need to do. So like I'm walking him through the entire process. Completely a God thing. He applies to this one school, Seton Hill, who had their first year of their PT program. This was like 2 years ago. He applies with very minimal credits, does what he absolutely needs. So I walked him through his entire application process, gets into the school, and now he's about to graduate PT school. So his life changed within like 2 years, all because he just followed it, you know? And I'm not saying that's what you need to do. I'm just saying that's a pretty crazy coincidence. You know, it's crazy. Things can change very quickly. And that goes to show, like,
Yeah.
Mike, if you wanted to get out and like they call it burning the ship, if you wanted to, you could get out of that and you could burn the ship and just say, I'm done with my 9 to 5. Like I'm about to go all in on this training, and you could do it. And I'm not saying that's what you should do, but you know, life can look very different in a year from now if you really want it to. So
Yeah, it'll be soon.
yeah,
It'll be sooner than most people think. But I mean, it's not going to be like tomorrow or anything.
I'm sure you have a good head on your shoulders, so you're gonna make the right decision for yourself. I don't know you very, very well, but I know that just off this conversation that you're gonna make a good decision that's good for yourself. So um, don't listen to my rant.
Yeah, that is crazy. That's crazy that he did that, and good for him for like
Yep.
taking that step, man. I can't even fathom doing a career change at this point in my life. Can't.
Yeah, I mean, once you're a doctor, you go through med school. It's like, yeah, that shit. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you want to do anymore. You're just a doctor now. Like,
Yeah, you have too much debt at that
yeah,
point
it's
too. You
like
can't really turn back.
like 8 years of schooling on that. Like, yeah,
Yeah, you can't turn back with all
like
that.
you've wanted to be an eye doctor for as long as I've known you, which is a really long time.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly right. He's always had the vision. So
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, honestly, that's something that, we'll wrap this up because we can talk forever, but I feel like that's something that we all have. I think that the over, the theme of who you are and who we are and why we having you on the podcast is because just like us and the last guest, like you're a grinder and you're very humble and you don't, you're not, getting into like, yeah, I put all this like hard work and time in. And I think that you kind of are too humble where it's like, yeah, like I tried a little bit more in college, but like it wasn't like I was like where Andrew and I were like, talking about how much time we put into studying and stuff. Like you're obviously a very intellectual person, but you obviously put a lot of hard work into. And I think that that's why you are the way you are and why you have the success that you have. And I think it's also important to understand that, like we've talked about before in our other podcasts, like success means a lot of different things to everybody has their own, view on what success is and what that means to them. Obviously you have your own view on it too. And I mean, you're just such a hardworking guy that I have, you're like one of those people just like Andrew, where it's like never even a question. Anytime that I talk to you and you had like these goals, like I'm going to start this, I'm going to make this software. I want to train people. Like I want to do this YouTube channel or this and that. It was never like, I don't know if you should add that on to what you're doing. For me, it was like, yeah, I'm not even worried about you. I know that like whatever you're saying you're going to do, you're going to do, and you're going to do it well.
Oh,
And that's
thanks.
just a testament to who you are as a person and your work ethic and everything. So man, like kudos to you.
No, man, right back at you. Like I said, told you a while ago on the phone. We might not see each other that much in person anymore, but I still consider you one of my best friends. Because like we're brothers in spirit. Is what we're going after and what we're trying to do. And so no, I really appreciate it. Appreciate you too. So
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, Andrew, do you have any other anything else you want to discuss that you were thinking about?
No, I just wanted to kind of piggyback off you, Jonah, and I obviously didn't know Mike before this. We've talked kind of in the what's the app, Jonah? The thing that we use,
Discord. The Discord.
the Discord. Yeah, we've talked a little bit through the Discord before, just like kind of giving each other positive reinforcement about what we're doing. But dude, I mean, anyone who's going towards that common goal of just bettering themselves, and it sounds cliche, but I don't really care. Honestly, anyone who's about that, like, I can't really dislike, you know, and you're a very genuine guy, and I can pick that up right off the bat, dude. And the humility is what I love about you. Like I said, to anyone listening, I've not talked to really Mike before this podcast, so this is a genuine reaction. But yeah, I mean, your humility is great. I can always appreciate humility whenever I see it. Everyone's always so quick to jump and say what all the things that they've accomplished and all the things that they've done, and how many different tribulations were thrown at them, but you remain silent amongst that. And so I know that you're a hardworking dude, and I can always appreciate that, and people will be able to tell through the podcast too. So keep it up, man. I wish I was back in Pennsylvania. I could be hanging with y'all a little bit more, but I'm sure I'll see you this weekend, Mike, actually. So
we'll meet in person this Saturday. So
yeah, that'll be good. We'll get to chat up a little bit. But yeah, dude, appreciate having you on here. Thanks for coming. You were awesome guest to have, second on the series. So loved having you, love chatting with you. But that's my 2 cents on it.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think that
That wraps it up
pretty perfectly. You know, you're definitely one of none. So keep crushing it and keep at it, and I'm sure that, you know, you'll be plenty successful in no time.
Yeah. Oh, already on top of the success he's already amounted. So.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Mike, thanks for coming on. We appreciate you. If you liked this, anyone who's listening, please share. It's a value exchange, like I said at the beginning. If you liked it, share it. Tell someone about it. We appreciate that. The word of mouth is huge for us. So, yeah, that about wraps it up. Thank you all for listening.
Thanks. Peace.
Yep.
I got that.